Okay, at this time, we're going to go ahead and get our meeting started. Tonight, we're going to do something just a little bit different than we normally do. We're going to call a special meeting of the combined Planning and Zoning Commissions for the Orange Grove PUD. Now, when we vote on this issue, there's going to be two votes because we will have to vote as the Planning Commission and then we will have to vote as the Zoning Commission. After this meeting is completed, after the special meeting is completed, we'll go ahead and convene our regular meeting of the Planning Commission. And then after that, our regular meeting of the Zoning Commission. Let the record show that all commissioners are present, both planning and zoning commissions. This time we'll go ahead and open up the floor for the public comment period. Anyone wishing to speak on this issue, please come up, sign in, and you'll get your 3 minutes to speak. Okay, no one wishing to speak, then we'll go ahead and move along. Whoever's representing Orange Grove.
Good evening. My name is Jose Barra. I'm with Parish Engineering. I'm representing the Orange Grove PUD. This evening we're requesting approval for the planned unit development of the Renaissance Orange Grove, and it's to create a residential community with mixed density. The site is located on Highway 22 and Panama Road. The site consists of 134.3 acres, and it is currently agricultural with the exception of one of the front lots that is fronting on Highway 22. The property has several pipelines that runs along the east and on the south side of the property. And diagonally across the property, we have a power line that runs through it. This slide shows what the front of the property looks on with large mature live oaks. And the very last picture shows what the fields looks like. Our proposed development is broken into several areas, and this is the conceptual plan. Right at the entrance, we have an area that is called the entrance to the subdivision, and this is an area that we're trying to preserve as green space to preserve all of the live oaks that are existing there. The idea there is that there will be no buildings or lots that will be in this particular area. As you come into the subdivision, you will run into an area that is we call the neighborhood. This is a medium density area. And this area will have a feeling of the old-time neighborhood where the houses are very close to the street and will have rear alleyways to access the driveways. As you come further in, we have an area called the cluster. This is a high-density area, and the idea there is to provide for townhomes and smaller lots. And then finally, the larger green areas that you see on the screen are the residences, and those are larger lots that will be provided. In the PUD, we are supposed to provide 20% of green space, and in our development, we have 30% green space. The 30% green space does not include the Panama Canal nor the overhead power line. This is what the subdivision will probably look like. This is just shown for graphics purposes. It is subject to change. We'll have a lot of lakes and green space interconnected. And the idea is to provide an environment where people can feel comfortable moving around and enjoying the natural areas. On this slide, I'm showing what more or less the neighborhood, the cluster, and the residential areas will look like. And again, this is just for graphics purposes. That does not mean that this is the type of homes that will be built there. And in the entrance and in the green spaces, we have a series of amenities. We will have a focal point. We will have water features in the lakes. We will have trails. Of course, we'll have the lakes. We'll have gazebos, pedestrian bridges, and fishing docks in the lakes. This project, the developer is considering doing it in 4 different phases, and we have broken it down. The first phase would be the total development will have 352 lots, and the first phase of the development will have 106. And that is all. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Comments or questions from commissioners?
Yes, sir. I've got one in reference to the intersection, the impacted intersection at Louisiana Highway 22 and Highway 70. Does the developer have any plans for mitigation to the impacted intersection? If so, what are those plans?
He is planning to improve the intersection of Highway 22 and 70 by the time the final plat is approved for the first phase of the development.
And those improvements include?
The turning lane as requested by, indicated by the traffic impact study.
And the acceleration lane also?
And the acceleration lane, correct.
Okay. I've just got one more question on the boundary lines and existing improvements section. Number 4, easements. As far as easements on Highway 22 coming into the proposed development, is the developer giving up any easement or right-of-way on Highway 22 itself?
Mr. Members, we're prepared to do whatever we all determined is appropriate there. If you're talking about a turning lane into that development, is that what you're referring to?
I'm not specifically asking for any particular item. I'm just asking, are there plans to provide an easement or a right-of-way?
If it is necessary for the development, the developer will provide that.
Certainly, we'd have to grant that servitude or right of way, sure. I'm Ron Menville with the development.
That's all I've got.
Question I've got pertains to, you're talking about 4 phases.
Correct.
What kind of timeline are we looking at? How long are we looking at to do all this?
Phase 1 will be probably within a year. The subsequent phases, Ron, do you have a schedule?
I would predict that this project would roll out over 3 to 5 years, based on the absorption rates and the market analyses that we've conducted so far.
Mr. Menville, excuse me, would you step up to the microphone, please, sir?
Yeah. We expect the development to roll out over 3 to 5 years based on our market analyses and studies we've conducted to date.
The amenities that are in the subdivision, docks, the water features, the gazebos, the live oak trees, those amenities will be maintained by?
They would be maintained by the homeowners association, which of course we would control until the majority of the lots were sold to others, and we will be happy to make certain that that's properly funded, as we have done in other developments that we own and operate. Okay.
Any other questions or comments from commissioners? Okay, then I guess I get to ask that question. But I get to ask that question twice as far as what is the wish of the zoning commission? You still have the public comment was on this issue earlier, I thought. I kept thinking, no, that the public comment period, since this is the only item, the public comment period pertained to this. Well, that's no problem. If there's anyone in the audience wishing to speak on this item, now's the time to come up. No one wishes to speak. What's the wish of the zoning commission?
Mr. Chair, I have a question for the ERA.
Sure.
Michael, in the entrance, the design for the turn movements and all of that would be done not at this stage, but it would be done at the subdivision level, at the final development plan level?
You're talking about the entrance to the subdivision or the off-site improvements?
No, sir, the entrance to the subdivision. Off-site improvements are in the traffic report. I'm talking
Right.
about the,
Well, we will look at their proposed, entrance, I presume, when they submit. Well, they will have to come back with a final development plan for each of the phases. Now, they may choose to do that all in one batch or phase by phase, whichever they choose, but you will get another more detailed look of phase one, which would include the entrance. There will be another public hearing for that would come before the, correct me if I'm wrong, O'Neill, come before the planning commission.
okay.
So we will have an opportunity there to review their entrance as well as during construction plans.
Okay.
One last time on the questions. What's the wish of the zoning commission?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we approve this PUD conceptual plan and zoning as presented.
I have a motion to approve by Michael Bardwell.
Did you want to include that the off-site improvements is recommended?
They, that's in, and it's recommended. I didn't hear
No,
anybody say they
it's
were
not.
opposed to it.
We're citing the fact that they are talking about improvements at the intersection, but we're saying in our letter that's part of what y'all need to resolve. So
Okay.
I agree with O'Neill. It should be part
With
of
the
your motion.
contingency that all improvements at intersection of Louisiana Highway 22 and Louisiana Highway 70, as presented in the ERA's comments, are addressed, including the northbound right turn lane on Louisiana Highway 70 and an acceleration lane on Louisiana Highway 22.
I'll second the motion.
I'd like to offer a suggestion. On the turn lanes issue, since it's premature to require any right-of-way on 22 or anything like that, could we say that since they've offered to do whatever is required, it's subject to any future traffic analysis that may indicate the need for a design on that intersection on the entrance to the subdivision, since this is a major highway?
But we're only talking about the off-site right now.
No, we're talking about approving, recommending approval of the rezoning to PUD, are we not?
Okay, let me clarify a point, if I may.
Please.
The traffic study looks at the intersection of the proposed development with Highway 22.
Oh, then
And it's saying that they will have a level of service A or B, AM and PM peak hours, without a turning lane. In other words, with just the entrance to the subdivision. So the traffic report itself is not requiring anything further.
Okay. and
Now, the commission has asked for easements, and they've indicated
I'll
that
clarify why I asked, was the developer willing, and just looking at future expansion or widening of Highway 22,
Right.
I wanted to make sure that developer was willing to give something, not necessarily a turn lane, but give the easement or right-of-way so we can look at this for future improvements to that road and plan for that.
That's correct. And they will
Corridor
have,
preservation, so forth.
and they'll have the ability to express that in their final development plan for phase one. When it
I'll
comes.
withdraw my comment.
So let me, I want to make sure that we're clear. We have a motion to approve,
Just as I stated.
as stated,
You have a second.
and by Mike Bardwell, and a second by Scott Courtwright. Is there any opposition or discussion? Motion passes. Well, now we have to vote as the Planning Commission.
Mr. Chair, I offer a motion that we approve the PUD conceptual plan as presented with a contingency that all intersection improvements as stated on Louisiana Highway 22 and LA Highway 70 as stated by the ERA are addressed. That includes the northbound right-hand turn lane on 70 and acceleration lane on 22.
I will second that motion as a planning commissioner.
I have a motion to approve as stated by Mike Bardwell and a second by Scott Courtright. Is there any opposition or discussion? Motion passes. And now I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn special meeting.
Have a motion to adjourn by Scott Courtright.
Second.
Thank you.
Second by Paige Becknell.
Thank you all.
Any opposition or discussion? Motion passes. Okay, we'll give everybody just a couple minutes to get ready for the regular Planning Commission meeting.
Let's wait. Let's wait here and do that.
Is this based off of?
Thank you.
That's not everything.
Nice to meet you.
Oh, okay. I'm with you. There was something I needed to change.
It's each separate ordinance.
I see what you mean.
Who could?
I think it's the other way around, but I'm not sure. Just got it. We gotta vote on all It's the same. Those are the same that's in the packet. Except I had one change.
This time, we'll go ahead and we'll start the regular session of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Have a couple of announcements. Item 15A on our agenda, Riverwood, has been pulled at the request of the developers. Also, I didn't mention it in the last the special meeting that we just held, but if anyone has a cell phone, I'd like to ask you to turn it off at this time, please, because it does interfere with the audio. The records show all commissioners are present. This time we'll go ahead and open up the public comment period. Anyone wishing to speak on any item on the agenda, it's not up for public hearing, please come up and do so at this time and you'll get your 3 minutes. No one wishing to speak. Item 4, acceptance of the minutes of the May 10th, 2006 meeting.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
I have a motion to approve by Steve Barrow.
Second.
Second by Scott Courtwright. Any opposition or discussion?
Mr. Chair, I'm going to abstain. I was not here last meeting.
I have one abstention. Mr. Julio Dumas. Is there any opposition or discussion? Motion passes. Item, I guess it should really be 5. It's all here is 6. Acceptance of the simple division of property approved by the Planning Commission Chairman from June 1st, 2006 to June 30th, 2006.
Make a motion to approve.
A motion to approve by Steve Barrow.
A second.
Second by Mike Bardwell. Is there any opposition or discussion? Motion passes. This time we're going to go ahead and open up our the items as far as our family partitions. We have 2. The item, I'll just go ahead and go with the numbers that's on here. Item 7A, Pike D. Babin property, tracks C-2-A-2-B-1 and C-2-A-2-B-2. Mr. Quintmall.
Good evening. Clint Quintmall, representing W.J. Quintmall Surveyors, asking for Planning Commission approval on the Pike D. Babin family partition. There were no comments from the Planning Department nor the consulting agency.
Comments or questions from the Commissioner at this time? Now, if there are no comments or questions, then we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, please come up and sign in and you'll get your time. No one wishing to speak. Comments, questions from the Commission? What's the wish of the Commission?
I'd like to make a motion to approve based on meeting requirements for a family partition.
Have a motion to approve by Steve Barrow.
Second.
Second by Paige Becknell. Is there any opposition or discussion? Motion passes. Item 7B, Wesley B. Valentine property, tracks A-1-A-1 through A-1-A-5. Mr. Quintmall.
Yes, there were no comments from the Planning Department nor the consulting agency on this family partition.
Comments, questions from commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, I've got a question. If I recall correctly, this piece of property came before us last year for acceptance into the Parish road system. I think we sent that as a recommendation to the council, and I don't know what the status of that is.
The drive remains as indicated.
Did the council act one way or another on this road?
I may refer that question to my client.
Members, I'm Ben Valentine, and the parish council has not acted on that. There were some things that they asked us to do, like tar the cracks, which we've done. Laverne, did I talk to you about that? No. There was one of the members at the Parish Council that we spoke to, but the road has not been accepted. All we're doing is asking to be allowed to give lots to my 3 grandchildren and my mother at this time. But the road hadn't been accepted, to answer your question.
But it's still pending. It's still pending council action right now?
Well, they haven't taken an action. It hasn't gone back to the council. It hadn't been going back to transportation.
Charles, is there any issue with coming? I mean, a family partition is actually a variance because it's not on a public road. If we're in the middle of action on council action pertaining to this road, does that present any problems?
I think we want to ask legal counsel, but I would think since it's still private, I guess for family partition.
Charles, will you speak into the microphone, please, sir?
I said I would think that since it's still private, he could ask for a family partition, but we could ask Mr. O'Neill Barrington.
Until it's taken into the road system, it's a private road, so it should be treated as a private road.
Even though it's in the council's hands right now?
Yeah, because it still has not been accepted. It may be accepted or rejected or whatever. I mean, until it's taken in, it's not taken in. They have people that request to have their roads taken in all the time, and they do and they don't.
That's all I've got.
Any other comments or questions from commissioners?
Well, if we're gonna be making an approval at this stage, and the proposed plat shows it as public, I would request that be changed to private, since we're approving it as a private road.
No, it's in public. I don't know if that's a question or not.
No, the public.
It does not show it as a public
The
road.
public road is just the end of public road. That's the 100 feet from
Ah, okay, so it's just to the front. Okay, never mind.
Teal Avenue.
So that's 100 feet from Teal. Okay. Mr. Chair, if the road is private, based on the fact that the road is private at this time, I'll move approval.
I have to open the public hearing on
I thought you did that already.
No,
You did that earlier.
that was the last one. I was just waiting for questions and comments from the commissioners.
I'm done.
If there are no other questions or comments from commissioners, then I'll open up the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, please come up and sign in. You'll get your 3 minutes. No one wishing to speak on this item. One last time, questions, comments from commissioners. Go ahead, Julio. Still want to make your motion?
You got my motion.
I have a motion to approve by Julio Dumas,
I second that.
second by Scott Courtright. Is there any opposition or discussion?
I'm going to object.
I have one objection, Mike Bardwell. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jump to item, will be at item 8 now, 8A. Creekside, first filing. This is a final approval. Ms. Kennedy.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm Karen Kennedy with GWS Engineering. We're here requesting approval of the final plat for Creekside first filing, which was formerly a portion of Cross Creek subdivision. All the ERA comments to the plat have been addressed. The final plat was submitted June 7th, and at that time we expected the construction to be complete. However, the road work has not been completed at this time. The curb is under construction, and the soil, cement, and asphalt will be within the next 2 weeks. We're requesting approval contingent upon completion of the final inspection and the punch list items.
Comments, questions from commissioners?
Just one, Karen. I went and looked at the property Sunday. Just curious, why so soon? Why so early? Why push? Because it doesn't seem like it's even close to.
Everything is done except for the roadway. All the grading and drainage has been done. The sewer is installed. And I do understand and don't like the fact that it's not done and I'm here tonight. However, 5 weeks ago, we did anticipate it being done. It's hard to time these things, so. And we do anticipate being done within 3 weeks. And we have actually had some rain this month.
It's all good.
Any other comments or questions from commissioners? Then at this time, we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, please come up and sign in. You'll get your 3 minutes. No one wishing to speak. Last call. Comments, questions from commissioners? What's the wish of the commission?
I make a motion to approve.
You want to make that contingent upon completion of the road and the streets and so forth?
Yes, contingent upon final inspection.
I have a motion to approve contingent upon completion of the streets and final inspection by Steve Barrow. Is there a second anywhere? Seconded by Don Grant. Any opposition or
Do you
discussion?
want to make that subject to the resolution of all any punch list items also? Because they could do an inspection, still have some items left on the punch list, just to make sure.
Yeah, because, well, usually, I mean, even with, we can go ahead and do that.
Okay.
Pretty much it's always been a given, I think, though, too. You want to go ahead and include it in
Yes,
the
let's
motion?
include the punch list items being addressed as well.
Okay. Any opposition or discussion? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Item 8B, Manchac Place, 9th filing.
Good evening. I'm Jim Tatum with Tatum Engineering, here representing Manchac Place LLC. We're asking for approval on the final plat of the 9th filing, Manchac Place. This is the final and last filing in the subdivision. The construction is substantially complete. We have not had our final inspection, but we do anticipate requesting that within a week or so. The streets have been installed. The weather's held the contractor up a little bit from doing the final grading, cleanup, getting the ditches shaped properly. And I'd ask for your approval tonight contingent upon the bonding and the final inspection. I'd be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Questions or comments from commissioners?
You don't foresee any problems with the drainage off that road? I noticed when driving down there was some issues with the curbing and the catch basins and things off the road. You don't have any?
No, we haven't. I'm not aware of any problems. We had some areas around some
It
storm
looked like
drainage.
just some concrete work that still needed to be done.
Inside
And
the
that-
9th filing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I'm not aware of that, but we'll check that in the final inspection, make sure it's taken care of.
Just not used to seeing anything to that degree that needed. It looked like it's still quite a bit of work needed to be done on that. But I understand too that that's what inspections are for.
All
So.
right. And we'll take care of it.
Any other questions or comments from commissioners? At this time, we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, please come up and you'll get your 3 minutes. No one wishing to speak. Last time. Comments, questions from commissioners? What's the wish of the commission?
I move that we approve contingent upon final inspection and punch list items being addressed.
I have a motion to approve by Mike Bardwell,
Second.
second by Scott Courtwright. Is there any opposition or discussion?
Michael, do you want to add the correction of the Board of Adjustments action to reflect the date on the plat? That hasn't been done yet.
Yeah, is it too late to amend that?
No.
Yeah, I
Haven't heard the gavel.
haven't heard the gavel yet.
Yeah, let's add that to the motion.
Charles, Angie, did y'all get that as far as adding? Go ahead and state it. As far as
Show the date on the plat of the zoning board of adjustments action.
any opposition or discussion? Motion passes.
All right, thank you.
I have item 9A, servitude revocation, Swamp Road Partners LLC property, Tract Y.
Good afternoon. I'm Carl Leader with Alvin Fairburn and Associates. Here tonight representing Swamp Road Partners LLC. We asking for a revocation of a 15-foot drainage servitude that lies on Tract Y. I'm here for any questions if y'all have any.
Comments, questions from commissioners?
Maybe I just didn't see it. There is a new drainage servitude.
That's
put in
correct.
place.
That's correct. We implemented a new drainage servitude being the same width, 15 foot, on the eastern border. If you're looking at that detail, it travels south-southeast along the property line, and then we created another one in the rear of the property as well as on the west side of the property. As suggested by Mrs. C.J. Go ahead.
Any other comments or questions from commissioners? This time we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, please come up and sign in and you'll get your time. No one wishing to speak. Comments, questions from commission? What's the wish of the commission?
Move for approval.
I have a motion to approve by Julio Dumas.
Second.
You second? Second by Alan Kraus. Any opposition or discussion? Motion passes.
Thank y'all.
Have item 9B, the August Koning property in Duplessis Place, Tract X-1. Is there anyone here representing this property? There's no one here to represent this property.
I'm Elton Bernard with representing the Spanish-speaking church that's on that property. We're requesting a revocation of the 15-foot utility servitude that's there and rerouting of the drainage on the south side.
Questions, comments from commissioners?
Once again, there was a new drainage servitude implemented.
Not yet. It's waiting on approval of this revocation of the existing servitude. We have the architect's recommendation of the new drainage, and that's been not opposed by the parish engineer. I have a letter saying he has no problems with the new drainage system.
It's okay, Charles?
My suggestion is that if you're going to make this, that you do it with the specific language that DPW had regarding the drainage servitudes. We'll make sure
Whereas
we don't
both
have
are implemented at the same time? One's revoked and one's added
Yeah.
concurrently?
Any other comments or questions from commissioners?
But just want to be clear, we are revoking a drainage servitude, not a utility servitude.
Well, on the map, it shows it as a utility servitude, but we've gotten letters from each one of the utility companies saying they have no objection to revocation, and there are no utility lines there now.
But the recorded document references it as a utility servitude. Okay. So the appropriate motion then would be to call it a utility, AKA drainage servitude, subject to dedication of a new drainage servitude.
There was an issue about how I don't know if you shouldn't go ahead and be specific as far as, because one of them is declared as 10 foot and the other is 15 foot.
Right. Yeah, that's, we ready for motion?
Let me open up the public hearing. If there are no other questions or comments from commissioners, then I'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, please come up, sign in, you'll get your 3 minutes. No one wishing to speak. Last time, comments, questions from commissioners. What's the wish of the commission?
I'm going to make a motion to approve the proposed revocation of a 10-foot utility / drainage servitude along the eastern property line, subject to the dedication of a new 15-foot continuous drainage servitude from its point of the diversion to the north to its tie back into the present drainage system.
Okay, I have a motion to approve as stated by Julio Dumas. Do I have a second?
I second that.
Second by Mike Bardwell. Is there any opposition or discussion?
Julio, do you want to correct the plat?
He can do this through a simple dedication. I mean, it's an extraordinary cost to redo this, so I'm 6-1 way. He's going to have an instrument recorded in the public record that'll do that.
It's pretty much going to take care of itself. Any opposition or discussion? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Item 10 is simple divisions of property. 10A, Manshack Estates, lots 3-A, 3-B, and 3-C.
Evening, Commissioners. My name is Josh Zeldin. I'm here representing Mr. Scott Morris on this simple subdivision matter. I'm not exactly sure what the objections are, so I don't really have many comments to address that at this point. But it's my understanding that in the informal discussions between the engineer, Mr. Becknell, and the surveyor, that this simple subdivision is in compliance with all the pertinent ordinances. And I don't believe there's been any issue regarding traffic, drainage, or public health and safety, but I would ask to defer some time to comment and rebut any of the comments that may be made to that effect.
Yes, sir. You'll have that opportunity tonight.
I really don't have any other initial comments until I can sort of see what the other objections are.
Comments, questions from commissioners? There are no comments or questions from the commissioners, then I'm going to open up the public hearing at this time. Okay. Anyone wishing to speak, please come up, sign in, and you'll have your 3 minutes to speak. After that, sir, you'll have your opportunity to rebut.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
My name is Martha Saltis, and I've been a homeowner in Manchac Estates for 31 years. I live across the street from the property of Mr. Scott Morris, and I've been watching for the last 2 months to see what was going on. I was hoping that a nice big house would be built on that corner property piece, which is 1 1/5 acres. That didn't happen, and it appears I found out that Mr. Morris was trying to divide this lot into 3, making each parcel then to be 3,700ths, 3,900ths, and 4.4 hundredths of an acre. None of the homes and none of the lots in Manchac Estates are of this nature. Several have been divided, but they've all had at least 3/4 of an acre. I'm concerned because my house is right across the street from Mr. Scott Morris's property. He's moved his trailer off to the front of my house, facing my house, and we have the original water system in our subdivision. We have 120 homeowners, and the water system was developed in 1969-70 with 4-inch piping. It was not upgraded. The only changes to that system have been through breaks in the system, and we don't have a well anymore. We get our water from Baton Rouge. We have no fire hydrants. Fire is a big consideration for me. And my second thing is that one small lot with 3 sewage treatment plants, if you will, or septic tanks or modads, just doesn't cut it on that corner. When we have heavy rain, the corner gets covered over with runoff water. The man across the street has had to fix his sewage treatment plant, which is only a few years old, several times. We have open ditches. Everybody's sewage drains into those open ditches, and that does present a hazard. We've been told that the new systems are you could drink the water if you had to. I would not try that. And that particular corner with the runoff is pretty bad. The other thing is Manchac Estates and Manchac Acres is also prone to flooding. When the Amite backs up and Bayou Manchac, we have a lot of people that are displaced from down the road from us. And Mr. Scott's property is right there at the corner where the people flow out and try to see what's going on with their property, check and make sure nobody's robbing their property, and things like that. And we need, it's in not the geographic center of our subdivision, but it's right there out in the open. And compared, if you look in Manchac Estates, there's no piece of property that is 1/3 of an acre. Thank you.
Thank you.
How are y'all this evening? My name is Mark Lowenthal. I own the property, lot number 4, which is directly adjacent to the rear property line of lot number 3 as the lot sits today. Prior to any zoning hearing or any approval from the parish, the gentleman who purchased that lot took it upon himself to move the trailer, which was currently on that lot, to a position which is closer to my property line than what our neighborhood covenants currently allow. And he also put in a septic system. I assume, just thinking that all this would just be approved with no opposition. Obviously, we'd have some opposition. Basically, that's all I had to say.
Thanks, sir.
Kevin Landrino.
I'm Kevin Landrino, and I've been retained by essentially property owners in Manchac Estates regarding this subdivision. The real big issue that comes into this is really the health, safety, and welfare of this particular subdivision. This subdivision was developed in 1971 as a large lot estate subdivision. Almost every single lot in the subdivision is 1 acre. Some of them as large as 5 acres. Some of them even larger than that. And now what we have is we have a 1 acre lot that was purchased very recently with an, I don't know, it's a 30-year-old mobile home on it that was moved to the back of the lot and is being sought to divide this 1 acre lot into 3 small lots, which is totally out of character of this particular subdivision. Usually what happens before you is someone comes into this chamber and says, we want to create a subdivision. They give you a plan, and you develop that plan, and you can say no or yes based on the zoning and various other issues. What has happened is you have one lot that's now being subdivided and theoretically does fit within your medium intensity requirements. But this subdivision was not designed as a medium intensity subdivision. Has open ditches, has sewer treatments in the back of each house. So what happens if you approve this particular subdivision? Well, what happens is now everyone in that particular subdivision now has a basis to come to you to say we want to re-subdivide our lot. And so if you try to fit that within the medium intensity zoning, you can take a 5-acre lot and put in 15 lots. So all of these 5-acre lots could start coming before this council to say we want to put in 12 and 15 lots and just re-subdivide each one and put a sewage, all they have is sewage treatment plants behind each particular lot and dumping into open ditches. This subdivision was not intended to be that type of subdivision. If you allow this one to be re-subdivided, it's going to carry over through this whole subdivision, and pretty soon you're going to have 120 lot subdivision turning into a 500 or 600 lot subdivision with 2 streets, open ditches, and no sewer treatment plant. Second of all, when you're talking about health, safety, and welfare, you're talking about 4-inch water mains and no fire hydrants in this subdivision. You need an 8-inch at least water main for this size subdivision if you allow these lots to start being subdivided, and you need fire hydrants. So when we're looking at it, you can say, I'm just going to look directly at these regs and say I'm going to approve it. However, your duty as the council is to make sure that anything you approve at least complies with health, safety, and welfare of the community in which you're approving something. And in this particular situation, we have a recent purchaser who is subdividing 1 lot into 3 lots, which does not comport with the character of the subdivision and can create a health, safety, and welfare risk, particularly when we're dumping all of this into open ditches and dumping all of this waste into open ditches. So the other thing is, in moving this trailer from lot 3 to lot 3C to the back, originally there's a 20-foot servitude on all rear lots. Well, now that trailer is essentially changing the rear lot to a side lot line and is now encroaching on lot 4, which is the adjacent lot. So that does not comply with even the restrictions here. And I don't know if you can change a rear lot line to a side lot line in a rezoning. I've never seen it done. I don't know if you allow that to happen, but it changes the character of that lot to a different type of lot and also infringes upon the lot 4 that is adjacent to it. I think essentially those are the issues that the subdivision wants to bring before this council and in seeking to deny this re-subdivision. And we'd ask that you would deny it based on the health, safety, and welfare and character of this particular subdivision.
No one else to speak? Okay, we'll give the proponent his time to rebut.
This is Mr. Scott Morris, the landowner. Just to address a couple of the things, the first young woman who spoke regarding the flood evidence. As far as my understanding, I don't want to speak for Mr. Becknell, but he reviewed the survey plans and there were no drainage issues. That would be the opportunity to look at that to see if that was an issue. The property is not located in a flood zone.
The ditches are closed, on my property. They're sealed. They have culverted, graded tops, and that's what my property drains into.
And then regarding the trailer issue, That was moved, and an address was that has met approval already. That moving of the trailer, and it has been assigned an address on. It's not a side lot, as was suggested by the previous speaker. The address granted by the city suggests otherwise, that it's not a side lot. And then addressing the public health and safety issues. The argument that was set forth is kind of the classic slippery slope argument. If you allow this one simple subdivision, then all the other lot owners that have large multi-acre lots can then go in and re-subdivide their lots as well, which would create a problem on the infrastructure. There's a mechanism for subdivisions to handle that kind of situation. It's just a building restrictions. If they wish their lots and their subdivision to be treated a certain way and have certain guidelines and rules and limitations on subdividing, then that should be put in those building restrictions. That's not the way the lot was set up. The subdivision was set up, rather. The ordinance allow for this kind of subdivision. My client purchased the property relying and intending on the fact that he could re-subdivide it into 3 lots. So the speculation about what happens further shouldn't burden my client specifically. He's not a big developer. He's not going to go in and try to he can't handle and take a hit of not being able to re-subdivide this small property. I guess that's all. Is there any other comments that you wanted to set forth about the trailer?
Well, the trailer's not going to be there in my opinion, it's going to be there a couple of years, and then it'll be changed. I've already been told that a purchase on the other 2 properties are being looked at right now, that they're possibly going to be putting in some $200,000 homes in there, which I think is going to upgrade the whole subdivision. And again, the neighbors are big lots, but they're not, to me, they would all subdivide if they can. I know they would.
That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Comments, questions from commissioners?
I have a couple of questions to the petitioner. Sure. What was the address of the trailer in its old position?
38626 David Drive.
And the address of the new position?
18349 Broussard Avenue.
Okay, and staff, you can just come in and get a building permit and change the address. You don't have to, on a corner lot, you technically have 2 frontages, correct?
So we needed to get a new address to put in the upgraded sewer system. And we did upgrade the system from an old septic system that was okay in the past up to a new upgraded MODAD system, and then everything else will be upgraded to this MODAD system that you're supposed to be able to drink out the water. So we've done nothing but actually increase the
Could you speak into the microphone, please, sir?
We've actually done nothing but upgrade the cleanliness of the sewage treatment that was going on at the time of taking over the pit.
Staff, what's the minimum lot size for a septic system or an on-site sewage disposal system? The minimum area required?
16,000.
16,000?
16,000 square feet.
Let me go ahead and this plat was coming before me to be signed. Now, when I got to the planning department to sign my plats, as I do every Wednesday, I didn't actually have the plat to be signed. What I had was a markup copy that the staff would review. And there were residents with issues pertaining to this item. And while I don't necessarily see everyone in this development, in this subdivision, going to, or coming to the parish to re-subdivide their lots, I think that it is something that the commission needs to take into consideration of potentially down the road. It's going to happen, especially with the prices of property these days. So the choice was mine because staff was telling me that it met all the requirements. The plat could be signed. according to our regulations, the plat met everything and could be signed. Or go ahead and bring it before the full commission. Let y'all share in the fund.
Thank
You're
Sir, can I
welcome.
say something?
Appreciate you.
Can I say something else again?
Yes, sir.
Like the lady said, the first lady was up, she was thinking that a great big beautiful home was going to be put in there, and I think that's the only issue, is that because we took a 35-year or a 30-year-old mobile home that was in good shape and moved it, that's what I think the issue is about. Here, again, the mobile home will probably disappear in a couple of years when somebody buys that third lot and builds a big beautiful home there. So I think it's, something that we wish to have it happen, to go through and subdivide. It's going to also financially detrimental me, because we have put our life savings into buying this property and subdividing it, and then hopefully making another piece of property out of this, the third piece of property, to be sold later on. So, I mean, this is something that we've already had prior checked out to be done. They told us that we could do it. We went through 3 or 4 different people. Went through the city, the state, or the parish. We went to the real estate. We also went through the Manchac Acres rules and regulations, and we found that everything has been up and over, and everything was on board. And that's all we've done, is tried to go by the rules.
Sure, I understand. Now, one of the things I did get this evening, just before the meeting, was a copy of the restrictions for Manchac Estates.
All right. One of my questions.
Yeah. And I don't see anything, there's nothing in here pertaining to re-subdivision of any of these lots. But I do have one question, and legal counsel can probably, it's a general question. There is mention in here of an architectural control committee. And I understand, I mean, as far as architectural, that would determine the buildings. Well, my question is, I'm wondering if does this committee still exist?
I don't know, but we don't really consider, we don't consider those are private covenants between private individuals.
Right.
And it's always my recommendation that that's a matter between the private citizens, that the matter before this is whether it meets the rules, and if it does, whether it's a matter of health, safety, and welfare. The subdivision restrictions are the matters between the landowners, because it's private covenants between the landowners. So I didn't even take a look at them, because that's my position on these things, that we should not consider those matters.
Well, and I do understand that, but what I'm thinking is, because these covenants are still in effect, according to the way that they are written, they are still in effect, because it's 30 years from the date of recording, which is, if I read it right, was 1978. So I guess my recommendation as far as these would be to the residents is, if you haven't, these are still in effect, then you need to go ahead and activate your architectural committee. That might help with any future problems that you would have. Other than that, that's about all these are good for as far as the commission is concerned. Because we don't, just as legal counsel stated, we do not have anything to do. That's a private agreement between the developer and the individuals that buy the property. So,
just a couple more questions.
Sure.
In Mr. Landrino's letter, he references that most of the 119 lots are 1 acre, with many being 3 acres or more. What staff, are there any other lots in the subdivision that are similar in size to what's proposed?
No, sir.
There is other lots right down David Drive, two spots down David Drive is a...
Wait, hang on. I'm just relying on staff.
I thought you meant-
The question was the staff.
These would be smaller than any of the other lots.
Okay.
They are small.
Jones, is this area typically, it's a flooding concern, if I'm not mistaken, in this area. Is that documented?
That I'm not aware of.
Excuse me, but at this time, the public hearing part of this has been closed. There was no one else to speak during the public hearing. It's been closed. So right now, unless Commissioner has a direct question for a member of the audience, right now we just need to hear from the staff or the owner of the property right now.
Charles, do we know how many lots are in this subdivision right now?
The total number.
Trying to get a feel for how many potential lots we're looking at if everybody in the subdivision decided to go and seek simple divisions.
It's approximately 100 lots in the initial layout.
But with the lots varying in size. With the lots varying in size from 3 to 5 acres.
But at a minimum of 3/4 of an acre.
Charles, do you have a copy of the original lot layout? Does that exist?
It's included in that letter.
This is the whole subdivision?
Yeah, that's what was recorded with the restrictions. That's the last 2 pages.
O'Neill, I have a question.
Sure.
Can you explain what kind of precedents would be set in this neighborhood?
As far as
other lot owners coming and saying we want to subdivide because they have subdivided?
Well, right now it's zone medium intensity residential. I mean, you would have each issue would have to be considered on its own.
Okay.
I can't say what to do with on any of them or all of them, but each of them would have to be considered on its own.
Okay. Thank you.
Charles, does data exist? If we don't know it today or tonight, does data exist in the parish to look at past flooding that's documented in this area?
I think that would have to be a question the Department of Public Works would have to answer. I don't know of that.
To the best of your knowledge? No.
I really can't answer that. I don't know.
DPW does have that information, the flood, probably Alan Aldridge.
Any other questions or comments from commissioners?
I will make a comment on the health and safety issue, just because that happens to be a little bit of my professional background and my day-to-day work. Maybe somebody can explain to me, it appears that they're only adding 2 lots and 2 additional MODAD units. How can that warrant a health and safety issue? Let me explain what I'm saying. If these are open ditches and everybody's got a septic sewage effluent that goes into an open ditch, and those are all EPA regulated situations. In other words, you got to meet compliance standards. If you have a problem with your individual effluent, then that's an EPA or DHH issue, right? If you add 2 MODAD units to 120, the magnitude is very small. If there's an issue with those 2 new units, in other words, there's probably some that are 30 years old, and these are 2 new ones, how could that be a health and safety issue? And I will open that up, and I will ask if it's allowable for somebody from the audience to answer that, if you don't mind, Michael.
I'd like to elaborate on that a little bit. One of the things that I look at from a health and safety standpoint is that this is a pre-existing subdivision that was planned at acreage as set forth in the subdivision.
Right.
Everything was planned and developed that way. If you start adding the amount that could possibly happen based on this, we're looking at 3 times what's there now.
Absolutely. You know, the thing that scares me is that it's, you know, I know the document's 30 years old, and that's where I'm wrestling with this, is that the potential does exist for it to exponentially multiply. And do you have half-acre lots times 120? You know, we don't know. But if the standards in the subdivision say that there's no objection to that, then us as the commission, I guess personally, if I lived in the subdivision, I'd feel I wouldn't like that. But if it's in the standards and it meets all the ordinances, then all I've got to go on is my crystal ball, which isn't very clear sometimes, then that puts me in a difficult position, personally.
I think the main difference to look at here is the fact that when subdivisions come before us, they're engineered as such. Everything's engineered into the way that subdivision is developed. In this case, you have none of that. There's no management of this development whatsoever. And that's one of the things that I have to look at.
I think the issue that you're getting to, Scott, is this issue of consistency. I mean, you know, you have a subdivision that clearly, based on the plat that's attached to that document, are all large lots. And it is subdividing a lot like this, one of the smaller lots on that plat, into 3 smaller lots. Is that consistent with the character of the community? And I have an issue with that. But on the other hand, I think some of the questions that have been raised by the commissioners, how much of it is built out, you know, and what have you, is are questions that I think will affect, you know, the determination of consistency. And that's what my issue is. I mean, I'm just wrestling with a consistency issue, and I don't have enough information to make.
Yeah, I don't want to see a 30-year-old subdivision or 30 plus. That's the integrity, that's the foundation of our community. And I don't want to see those things to erode, but I just want to understand. It's just a question for me to educate myself. How is that? Tell me health and safety. Is it the future thing that we talked about? And that's true. Is it the immediate right now, these two are a health and safety concern, or is it a precedence issue? Mr. Langeno, you want to answer that? I appreciate it.
Let me. What ends up happening is there are numerous issues that can go towards, and you mentioned floodings, okay? When we start putting a bunch of new rooftops in this particular subdivision, all of a sudden we're displacing water. We're also displacing water that the land would have displaced before. And if you look at Manchac Estates, and you see a lot here that is 200 by 600, I can come in there and put in a 50-foot road all the way to the back of that property and start subdividing it all the way back, all the way through. Okay? And that is going to create another risk, because what's going to happen is you're going to have all of these rooftops that can be draining, and where are they going to go? All we have is open ditches. This subdivision only has 2 streets going through it. You see it. Fallbacher Drive and Broussard Drive comes into David Drive. Okay? We start increasing all of this flow through this subdivision. You know, this subdivision was designed in 1971 as this subdivision. What has happened is in 2000, was it in 2000, we brought in the new zoning for Ascension Parish, and it changed. Particularly, this became a medium intensity. Now, what has happened is it creates the opportunity for people to come in and say someone dies in a subdivision, someone comes and buys it from the estate. Next thing you know, they want to put in 10 lots, because that's how they can make the most money, even with the house existing on it. Okay? And so what we're saying here, and then when you're talking about the additional affluent into it, you know, 2 might only create a little bit additional affluent, but what's going to happen is if you approve this subdivision, then the next person's going to come up and say, well, you approved his, why aren't you going to approve mine? You're going to say health, safety, and welfare now? Too late. You already approved his, and that issue was brought up, and you declined on it. And now you're going to start getting into lawsuits on each individual subdivision to say, why did you approve his and you didn't approve ours? And so I believe that's where the health, safety, and welfare impact comes in. And additionally, you're going to have to come in and run water lines when you start putting 10 houses on one lot, because how are you going to put out the fires if one of those houses catch on fire? You don't have it. You have to bring in tanker trucks. All of those things go to health, safety, and welfare of this subdivision. And what happens if we start subdividing every subdivision in this parish and saying, well, I know they had half-acre lots, but they could have made them smaller? Are we going to do that? This was a subdivision designed as it was intended, and it should remain as it was intended. Thank you.
Can I answer your question?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to hear. I want to hear the argument.
Are there any other comments or questions from commissioners?
Yeah, I do have a comment. Since I like math, I like to crunch some numbers. I've been crunching numbers pretty quickly here. In reading that subdivision regulation, they do say that there should be no dwelling built on a lot size, effective lot size of 6,500 square feet. If you take lot 3B, subtract all of the servitudes that you have, and I'm thinking we may have to have a 15-foot drainage servitude now on the back lot line of that. Is that correct, Charles, or am I? Okay, if you put that 15-foot servitude now on the back, you now have reduced it another 15 feet, and you will have less than 6,500 square feet. Because you have 6,600 as it's shown without, with no drainage servitude. So you're really subdividing something that if someone were to come and buy from you, they could not build on.
Are those the building restrictions or the zoning ordinances?
That's the subdivision regulations that I
That
just
would be
read.
in the subdivision restrictions, and those are still in effect.
The private landowners subdivision restrictions?
Mhm.
Well, I would just say that that's an issue for the private landowners to deal with themselves. We're here today to determine whether this subdivision meets the city's, the parish planning and
And
zoning.
I say they probably will.
Okay.
They've already got legal counsel.
Right.
It
And
wouldn't be
my
too hard.
My response to Mr. Landrieu's comments is that it's patently unfair for my client to have to answer for the speculation of the possibility of lots being subdivided in the future. It's his lot here today. He wants to subdivide into 3 lots. Obviously, if we go from a situation of 100 to 500 lots, then the infrastructure is going to be burdened. I mean, I can't sit here and tell you that's not going to be the case. But we have a situation where about 100 lots, and my client would like to make 2 extra lots. If the rest of the subdivision doesn't like this precedent that it's set up, then they certainly have within their rights to meet and get together and amend their subdivision restrictions. That's the mechanism provided for them to do that. The planning and zoning is not the mechanism that should be used for them to prevent this one single client from subdividing his property. We talk about consistency. My client, he knew what the ordinances were and the subdivision restrictions, and he talked to surveyors and real estate agents, and he determined that this made sense for him to buy this property and subdivide it, and he relied on that. Everything in writing suggested that he could rely on that. And now he has to answer for the speculation that other property owners may sometime in the future burden the infrastructure. Like I said, I believe that's patently unfair for him to have to bear that burden.
Okay. I set aside all of those issues. Answer the question, how is this consistent and compatible with the rest of the development?
How is this subdivision?
How is this proposed subdivision of this lot consistent and compatible
Well, I mean, as
with the
you-
character of the rest of the development?
And as you suggested otherwise, that the lot size is smaller than the typical lot there, and I acknowledge
No.
that is inconsistent. Is that what you're addressing?
This is the only map we have of what the subdivision looks like.
No, I mean, what the information was gotten out during this hearing so far is that the lots the 3 lots that will be created in this would-be subdivision, they are smaller than the typical lot in the subdivision, in the entire Manchac Estates. I do acknowledge
Well,
that.
I wouldn't
That's what
say
you're getting
just
at.
smaller. I would say substantially
Okay.
smaller. In this
And
location.
I acknowledge that they are smaller than the rest of the typical lots. I believe that fact is neither here nor there in terms of whether this should be approved. The ordinance allows for a certain size lot, and he's complied with that with this proposed subdivision.
My comment to this is we are a planning commission, and we are tasked to look at future things. I mean, that is our job up here. I think at this point, I would like to see, and I don't know about the rest of the commission, I would like some evidence from DPW in terms of flooding.
Now, I know the property it's flood zone C, this particular lot. So that's not
That's
in a flood
not
zone.
the kind of information. I'd like some
Okay.
historical background on flooding in this particular area. With that, I'll make a motion that we defer this until next meeting, and that DPW get us some information on previous flooding in the area.
I have a motion to defer by Mike Bardwell,
I second it.
second by Alan Kraus. Is there any opposition or discussion?
Before you vote, sir, I think we have a question for legal.
Who has a question?
Never mind. Okay.
Any opposition or discussion? Motion passes.
Michael, can we get a copy of that subdivision? Can I get a copy?
Yeah, I'll get it.
Just quickly do it. I mean, you can have a lot, but nobody can use it. Way out there. Jovial.
Okay, item 10B, the Millie Godin property, lots 1-A and 1-B. Yes, ma'am.
I have a property that I'm trying to give my son.
Excuse me, ma'am. Could somebody shut the door in the back of the room, please? Go ahead, ma'am.
I have some property that I was going to give my two sons, and Earls and Associates was doing the surveying of it for me. And when they did, they drew up the map with ditch servitude on one side, and they were putting a servitude for a utility thing down my driveway that I have for one son to get to his property. So they was putting up a lot of servitudes on this two pieces of property I was trying to give my kids. Okay, my kids have been living on the property for at least 11 years now. I've been living on it for about 30 or 35. Okay, I have 6 acres. I told Earl and Associates that's not what I had wanted. All I'm trying to do is give away to my sons each an acre of land where their trailers are right now. Okay? I have a big ditch in the back of my property, a servitude ditch that runs through the middle of my property. When it was first dug, it was this big. Now it has grown this big. Okay, it servitudes Black Bayou Road through my property. My land drains downwards to that ditch. Okay, so therefore a servitude ditch along the side of my property, I don't see no purpose for it. They wanted to put, so Earls and Associates was going to just do one section for one of my sons because he needs to get his trailer refinanced because of a divorce situation. Well, when they drew up the third map, they drew it up with a utility service servitude in the front of my property. Okay, we have a utility servitude across the road from my property. Down the one side of my property where they was going to put the servitude ditch, we have utility lines down that section of my property. My two sons also have their own electricity utility poles on their property. So therefore, I saw no reason why I should have to give servitude for another electrical in the front of my property. So I'm here to ask that the ditch and the front electricity servitude is taken off the map.
Legal.
You can't do that. You've got to, the map has to comply with the requirements, and unless they get servitude revocations from the, although they're not set now.
That was my question. This is not for a servitude revocation, is it?
No, it's not for servitude revocation, and I don't think you could do it without, you can't do it this way.
The regulations require the servitudes be given. Now, if they're not used, it can be shown that they're not used, then you can come back before the commission and get a servitude revocation.
What you mean by not used?
Well, you'd have to contact all the utilities, different utilities, and get a letter from each of them stating that they don't need that servitude.
Okay. And the ditch?
Well, that's a different. That's a drainage servitude.
You'd have to get something from DPW saying they don't need the ditch. But this is also, she's looking to give 2 lots to her sons, and there's only one lot being subdivided here.
Right. At first, I was going to give each of my son a lot. But being there was so much problems giving my second son that lives in the back of my property, his property, because they wanted me to give him servitude right to get back to his property, which I couldn't do because I have been through a divorce and that piece of property is not in my name. So therefore, I decided to go and just give my one son property in the front.
The servitudes that are on a map or that were being drawn on the map are statutorily required. They've got to be included in the map, or you can't.
They were supposed to give you another map with just the first piece of property, lot A1. Earl and Associate was supposed to give you another map with just the first lot. And they told me they did that.
Well, if she's asking for approval of the map, and that's, y'all can do that, but you can't take the servitudes off the map.
I'm confused as to what's requested here. It says a variance from the requirement to grant the servitude.
She's wanting the servitudes revoked on this.
No.
And
Staff, can you clarify, what is the request?
The request is not to dedicate servitudes as required by the subdivision ordinance. You, as a planning commission, if you so decide, could grant that variance.
No.
The ordinance does require the dedication of those servitudes.
With all due respect, I mean, have the utilities been contacted? Have they responded to any of that? Do they need the servitude? Do they not need the servitude?
Well, she's not going through the revocation procedure. She didn't opt to do that. If she were going through the revocation procedure, she would have to do that.
Are the utilities going through another lot and there's no servitudes? Is that what's going on?
From what I understand, the utilities are across the street. All the services across the street.
And down the property line, one side of the property line.
And because of that, she felt that she shouldn't be required to dedicate servitudes across the front of her lots.
Well, if I may, then I'm just going to make this as a recommendation and a request. In order to intelligently act on a request to waive a requirement for servitude, we would want, at least I would want to hear from the utilities whether or not there's a need for them or not. If there's no need for them, and then there's a rational basis to grant that variance, then okay, but we don't have any evidence that they need it or don't need it.
Once again, though, you've got an issue, though, where, Charles, correct me if I'm wrong. If this variance wasn't being requested, this would have come before me to be signed without coming before the commission.
Mr. Chairman, let me just say this one thing. As it stands today, there are no utility servitudes on this lot.
I understand that, but
just-
the ordinance
just off-
requires the servitude,
If you're dividing the property, yes,
and it's being divided.
that's right.
So by virtue of the division, the proposed division, the servitude is required.
Correct.
We're being asked to act on a request to grant the variance from the requirement.
I do have a concern that now you're creating two lots and you don't have a utility servitude. If you have you have a utility servitude running through somebody's lot and they're not happy with the person who lives next door, the parish will have a problem with that. I have a
Right.
concern with that.
I agree with you, Neil. I mean,
I have a real concern if the property's transferred and they don't like the next door neighbor, they'll have the utilities cut off, and I'm not. I'm concerned about that.
Well, any other questions or comments from the commission? Because I'd like, this is up for public hearing. I'd like to go ahead and open the public hearing. And if there is anyone else here to speak on this piece of property, they can come up and sign in, and they'll get their 3 minutes to speak.
I've got one other question pertaining to the ERA's comments. Dealing with, please clarify ownership and/or lot designations of the 50-foot strip of land labeled Maurice Godin, now or formerly.
My ex-husband.
Is that, Sean, is that going to suffice, the comment?
where's that at?
But can I clarify something? I'm only giving away one lot. I'm giving away 1A. Earls and
1B.
Associates
1B.
was supposed to
1B
get
or
one.
1A?
1B, the little.
The little one.
The front one.
Yeah, the little tiny one.
Yeah.
So technically, Sean, that comment wouldn't come into play? Because nothing's being done with lot 1A, correct?
Yeah, you're carving that out of Lot 1A.
Yeah, you're carving that
Lot
out.
1A is the net result of you carving out 1B.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but they're talking about the 50-foot strip on the other side of the lot,
Yeah,
1A,
that's-
right?
That's not,
That's actually on lot 1.
No, they're talking about this strip right up here.
yeah, that's part of Lot
Which is
1,
part of
which is
one.
going to be which will be a
Yes.
part of the net.
Okay, well, that's my question, is what does that comment mean, and what are you trying to clarify there with the 50-foot strip?
I believe she answered that. We were asking her to clarify the ownership, who's the, we're just asking her to clarify who that is.
That parcel of land doesn't need a designation?
Well, it has one more Reed, which is, that's your ex?
That's my ex.
That's who it is.
But if that's part of this subdivision of land,
But I'm not giving away none of that. That's not part of it. I'm only giving away 0.6 acres of that front lot to my one son.
So he only owns that 49.96 portion, and then the rest of Lot 1 belongs to you?
Yes. But I do own that lot too by our divorce papers. It just has not been put in my name yet.
if you take in lot 1 and you're subdividing lot 1, and there's still a 50-foot strip that has no designation whatsoever, Sean, is that okay?
Why you say it's no desert? It says the name right there. What am I?
I don't see a lot number. There's no lot number on
I
it.
see. It's divided as a line.
But I'm not
Right.
subdividing my property. I'm only giving away that
Ms.
corner.
Godin, could you speak into the
Microphone,
microphone, please?
I'm only giving away that one corner piece, 0.6 acres, to one son.
But that is part of lot 1 right now, today, as it is today, correct?
Shouldn't be. No, should not be.
It needs to be, it's on the plat wrong then.
Ms. Gordon, then there's a line that identifies that 49-foot wide strip of land.
Okay.
And the question is, should that be a lot or should it not be a lot? And how should it be depicted on the plat? That's the question, and I think that's a question for the RA to resolve with your surveyor.
My original lot was 5 point something acres. Okay? Then me and my husband bought this half an acre that adjoins my land.
Is that the 50-foot strip you're referring to? Because it has no, there's no designation.
Yeah, that's right, that's it.
That's about more than 50 acres.
Shouldn't that not have a lot number?
What's shown originally is that Lot 1 includes that, because look at your dash
Right.
line with the
Yeah.
arrow.
So it's not a separate lot, it's part of lot 1.
It's probably,
I think it's
to
just a
me,
delineation
reading
of
this
the-
map, it's part of Lot 1.
Divorce paper.
She may have bought, or they may have bought it at a separate time.
Open up that can.
But
Sure.
if you're subdividing that lot and you're showing it on a plat this way, does that not show us another lot there? I mean, I see a solid line across that says now or formerly
And you're
that
saying,
particular name.
and you're saying you're actually owning that you just have some paperwork to clear up as a result of your.
Right, of the divorce.
Well, Sean, I think before this gets finalized, you know what to do with the line. Figure it out.
I'm going to go ahead and open up the public hearing now, as I started to do,
Please.
unless you have another question.
No, I'm
Okay.
still not, I don't have a good answer on that.
All right, if there is anyone wishing to speak on this item, please come up at this time. Okay, no one wishing to speak on this item. Any other comments or questions from commissioners? What's the wish of the commission?
Well, I'm going to move that we deny the request to grant the variance for the requirement of the necessary servitudes.
I have a
And-
go ahead.
And if I get a second, I'd like to make a suggestion to the property owner.
I have a motion to deny by Julio Dumas. Do I have a second?
Clarify, is that a denial of subdividing plat?
No, sir. A denial of the request for variance do not grant the necessary servitudes as required by code.
But are you also saying that you want to approve the simple division of property?
All I have here is a request for variance. That's what I read into the
It's a simple
request.
division of property with a variance, so you
With
would
a
have to
variance.
approve it, but you don't have to approve the variance.
Works the same way, just worded different.
You can still approve the plat, but you don't have to approve the variance. You would still have to dedicate the servitude.
But the plat wouldn't be before us if she granted servitudes.
Yeah, but it's still, it could be.
That's-
It could
It
be.
could be.
That's
Okay.
correct.
Yeah.
All right, I move to approve the subdivision and deny the request for variance.
I have a motion to approve the simple division of property without the variance.
Yeah. And just as I said, I have a couple comments to make.
Do I have a,
if get
do I have a second? I have a second, motion by Julio Dumas to approve the subdivision without the variance, and a second by Don Grant. Is there any opposition or discussion?
I object.
I have one objection. Motion passes.
My comment to the property owner is that if you don't want to grant the servitudes, I think you need to go through the process so that the appropriate people can comment on whether they're needed or not needed, and then come back, and we'll deal with it at that time.
Okay. So in other words, I can go through with giving my son this piece of property.
Yes, ma'am, but it has the servitudes on it.
Yeah, this one son.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're worried about this.
Okay, we have item 11. Acceptance of private road in the parish maintenance system, Jackson Oaks Road. Is there anyone here to represent this item?
I guess I should have, but I didn't.
acceptance of Jackson Oaks Road into the parish maintenance system.
Anybody here from DPW?
Well, there's no one here to represent this particular item.
Move to defer.
I have a motion to defer by Julio Dumas.
Second.
Second by Scott Courtwright. Is there any opposition or discussion? Motion passes. Item 12, public hearing to consider amending the subdivision ordinance section 20.200. Last month, you all received a copy of proposed changes to the subdivision ordinances, and it was motion was made to hold a public hearing this month, and that's what we're doing at this time.
It's on 2202, 2203, 2204, 2206, 2701, 2502, 4301, and 5203. And I've submitted all the various specific ordinances, but you can adopt them in mass, or
Okay.
you don't have to adopt each one if you'd like to do it.
Okay, any comments or questions from commissioners at this time?
I'd like to have something changed. I see it's a point of housekeeping in 20.206. Says that the subdivider does not submit the final plat and construction plans within 6 months. The Planning Commission shall have the right to rescind approval of the preliminary plat. I'd like to strike final plat, and it should be just the construction plans for 6 months.
Would you just email me that so I can make a change on it, and I'll...
Yeah, because, and the reasoning is they won't have a final plat
Right.
within 6 months.
Right, okay. And I'll make the change to the, you can approve it with the amendment, and then email me that change, and I'll put it in the amendment when we send the finals to the parish council.
Any other comments or questions from commissioners? At this time, I'll go ahead and I'll open up the public hearing on this. Anyone wishing to speak, please come up and you'll get your 3 minutes to do so. No one wishing to speak. Comments, questions from commissioners? What's the wish of the commission?
I'll make a motion that we approve it and send it forward to the council with the revision to 20.206, striking the final plat.
Second that. That's for all of them, correct?
That's for all of them.
I have a motion to approve, send to the, with the amendments, and send to the parish council by Mike Bardwell, seconded by Julio Dumas. Is there any opposition or discussion? Motion passes. Charles, at the same time, once again, make sure that the parish president gets a copy of this. Okay, item 13, committee reports. We'll start with the subdivision ordinance committee. Everyone should have had an attachment A given to them in their packets. And this is a recommendation from the subdivision ordinance committee pertaining to the withdrawal of items from the agenda. But it pertains to items that are withdrawn from the agenda that we don't charge fees for. We addressed pulling subdivisions and items that we charge fees for like that, but we didn't address these other items. And now this is only before you tonight for review. it would take a motion and an approval to push it forward to a public meeting. That would be the next step. Any comments or questions from the commission?
You want a motion?
Yeah.
I move that we schedule it for a public hearing at the next hearing.
Have a motion to push this item to next month for public hearing by Julio Dumas. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mike Bardwell. Is there any opposition? Motion passes. There was a second recommendation from the zoning subcommittee pertaining to the 6-month date and what the and that's 6 months after approval of a preliminary for a preliminary subdivision preliminary approval. What the subcommittee is recommending is at the 6 months from the date of approval of a preliminary, that the developer submit to the commission a written status update report as to where they are. And if they choose not to, then they'll get an invitation to come back before the commission. They can give us a verbal report of where they are on their subdivision. I said that's the commission voted last month to send this issue to the subdivision ordinance committee and get a recommendation from the subcommittee at this month's meeting, and that's the recommendation of the subcommittee.
When would that take effect?
Once again, it would have to go as far as a public hearing. It'd be a policy, and so we'd have to have a public hearing next month, and if the commission approved it, then it would go into effect the following month.
But that would effectively amend one of the ordinances that we just recommended to move forward, correct?
No.
No? Okay.
So right now what we're looking for is a motion to either go forward with a public hearing next month or put it on hold or whatever.
I make a motion to have a public hearing next month concerning the mentioned topic.
I'll second it.
I have a motion to put this item on next month's agenda for public hearing by Scott Courtwright, seconded by Julio Dumas. Is there any opposition or discussion? Motion passes. That's all we have for the subdivision ordinance committee report. Strategic planning committee report.
I was unable to attend the last meeting. I'll defer to Alan Krause.
I appreciate that. I don't have the agenda, and I didn't come with it, so I'm sorry to say that I don't have a report.
Okay. Are there any items of new business that the commissioners have? There are no items of new business. Our only item of old business was pulled from the agenda. So, item 16, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion by Mike Bardwell to adjourn, seconded by Scott Courtwright. Is there any opposition or discussion? Meeting's adjourned. 5 minutes, guys.